My name is Peter, and today I want to talk to you about cloud-driven development. Let me try to fix this better. Okay, so I want to cloud-driven development. I want to tell you that today I'm not going to be making any comparisons between different cloud services that have sort of popped up the last year. In Drupal, but I'm going to try to convince you that to go to the cloud and to start developing towards the cloud and adopt cloud-driven processes is going to benefit your projects a lot. First of all, a little bit about me. I've been working with Drupal and contributing to Drupal for over 6 years. I started to work with Drupal back as a student when I was working in a student organization, and we faced the problem of building sites for the different partners of a big European network, a network of students. So what we actually built a sort of Drupal template that the different sections could install across Europe, and that was a very sort of dirty template that you just take a database, upon install it would dump it, and you would start with a ready built and configured site that the section could manage and put news, events, and all this sort of stuff. This was Drupal 4.7 at the time. And then we built a site on top of that sort of extracted all that information and showed the information of the network on one big site. Since then I've moved on and I've co-founded a company called Nuvole, Brussels and Italy-based company that nowadays has a strong arm in features and supporting features. They give trainings at different DrupalCons on how to adopt a proper feature-driven development flow. And since this year, actually, I started another company called Marzi Labs. We're based in Barcelona. This is a picture from the office, from the meeting room, as I like to call it. You don't see it very well, but it's a very nice view of the port of Barcelona. I really want you to all come there and join a day with us at the office. And we're a very small team. We're 3 people, basically. 2 in Barcelona and 1 other person in Lisbon, in Portugal. And we face every day the problem of being a very small company. We can't have someone entirely focusing on one thing, like system administration, managing a server, keeping it up, installing new services, configuring them, working on performance. So that's why we always, when we start to do something, we always look at the cloud, and we always start to see what's out there already and try to leverage that instead of implementing the things ourselves. So the cloud, in very general terms, what is the cloud? So the cloud has given us the ability to provide nearly limitless on-demand resources to speed up our web development and deployment processes. So limitless on-demand resources. With the cloud, you can just ask another couple of virtual machines to be instantiated. You don't care really where they are or how they're going to be instantiated. They're just going to happen because it's a sort of a configuration you don't have to worry about. And at the same time, it can speed up your web development process because you don't have to configure all that stuff yourself. You don't have to spend time figuring out how to work with this or that technology to make your site go faster. You know that certain technologies are there, such as Varnish or whatever things to speed up your site, and you can just use them. And at the same time, it sort of makes your deployment also more fast, more speedy. And this is something I definitely want to show you today, that if you actually leverage the cloud, you're going to develop certain processes and automate certain processes in a specific, often standardized way that makes it much easier for you to deal with your sites. And for the other hand, the cloud for me is like a black box. You don't know what's going on, and honestly, you don't want to spend your time trying to figure out what's going on, because if not, you're going to be a system administrator. You're not going to be a developer. Then if you think practically about the cloud, I mean, what most people of us, probably have worked with is they have hosted their sites on like Amazon Web Services or Rackspace or Hetzner in Germany, or, a lot of different cloud services are there. But what do they give you extra to you? Is that really, is that enough for you? With these services, can you adopt a sort of a comfortable development flow without having to worry about installing all these other services you need? Well, the truth is you can't really do that. So that's why we enter sort of PaaS or PaaS, which is what it really means. It's platform as a service. It's basically a service that's implemented on top of the cloud, and that makes it easy for you to manage certain software in a prefabricated way. It's yet another service built on top of the cloud, such as software as a service or infrastructure as a service, or all this kind of different things. And next to a computing platform, which is a typical cloud, you have a solution stack. And do you know any of these different providers here in the room? Nobody knows any of them? Yeah. So the first one is Heroku. It's there since 2007, I think, and it's a fabulous platform as a service, really. It allows you to host a various number of apps built in different programming languages. It was originally built for Ruby on Rails, but it supports Java. It supports PHP as well, and a whole number of different platforms. And the funny thing is, everything there in the back works with a dinosaur. So if you instantiate your app on Heroku, you get a dinosaur automatically assigned to your task, to your app. And you can then upscale. You can buy more dinosaurs, and your app will, go faster or do more work. And the best thing of all is that one dinosaur is free. So you can always test out one little app with one dinosaur. Don't try to run Drupal on that, because for sure that's gonna break right away. It's simply not strong enough. But you can then work with your database, and you have all these services there done. You don't have to worry about them anymore. Another one is the Google App Engine. That's sort of a sandbox system where you can work with Google APIs and all this kind of stuff. You can run Java apps, and a couple of other programming languages as well are supported. And then there is Node-Jitsu. Node-Jitsu is relatively new, actually, and it has a strong arm, of course, in the Node.js world. And it's a very niche platform as a service, meaning it will only support Node. Like Heroku, Google App, they support a bunch of different technologies. Node-Jitsu only supports Node, and it does it extremely well. So I think sort of that's the future where we're going with PaaS, that they do one thing and they do it very well. And then there is GitHub. I put it there. It's not really considered a PaaS, but you can actually host your sites with GitHub. Who knows that you can host sites with GitHub? Nobody? So someone? Yeah, so you can actually host static HTML sites generated with Jekyll on GitHub. And it's a platform as a service, because what you'll be writing is some Jekyll code, which is mainly HTML, a little bit of Markdown, a little bit of Ruby, and you just push it up to GitHub, and GitHub will take care of compiling that into a static site. And I mean, nothing can be faster than a static website, right? And you can do surprisingly a lot of stuff with GitHub pages. And that's how it looks for Drupal. So PaaS for Drupal is something relatively new. I think Acquia probably was the first one. They started, I think, 2 years ago. You can probably confirm. Yeah, something like 2 years ago. And they did an extremely good job at setting up a very solid developer platform for developers to develop in the cloud. They're hosted on Amazon, I think, and using Apache, and they support Varnish, they support Apache Solr, they support a whole lot of different things. Then there is Pantheon, which is probably the most similar to Acquia. They are hosted on Rackspace, and they use Nginx, for example, as a server. And they have a little bit of different concepts to scale up your application, but they're pretty much the same. Then you have Omega 8. That is a bit different from these two. Uses an Agar-based flow for controlling your servers. And finally, there's a new PaaS coming up, releasing, I think, this week or this month, which is from Germany, called Freistilbox. That's hosted on Hetzner. And in general, what do these PaaS for Drupal have in common? So they all support different environments. So typically you have, or most of them, Omega is a little bit different. Typically you have a development environment, a staging environment, and a production environment. I'll go in more detail about that later. They work with a code repository, Git, so you actually push your changes over from one server to the other using Git. And you can scale up your resources, so you can get on-demand resources. And they often, and that's probably one of the most interesting things, they provide specialty services for search, for caching, for performance optimization, for monitoring, and a whole lot of other things that is, for you as a developer, really, really useful, and that takes away a lot of your time if you would have to configure them yourself. And this leads to a lot of, automation of the tools that you can typically use, or you want to when you want to build Drupal sites. More good stuff. Often, some of these platforms, I think Acquia and Pantheon for sure, have one-click Drupal distro installs. So you can check out your Drupal commerce distribution and just install it right away. You don't really have to do much for that. And they teach you awesome developer processes with the S. That's really cool. And I will show you this right now, how we work with the cloud and how we really leverage to our benefit and how we get away all the time we lose. Are there disadvantages? Well, sure there are. It's difficult often to break away from the standard setup. You get like a set of servers or a set of environments assigned to you, and you can't really, skip from one to the other. Some of them don't always provide shell access. So you think, what the fuck? I mean, no shell access? Seriously, what can I do without shell access? Well, you actually see that you can do a lot of things without shell access. And if you get shell access, it can be, it's probably limited and you can't do much with it. But, you don't always need that. And of course, you can't just install any fancy new library you want to use. I mean, the system is a platform. It's not the cloud. It's not exactly how you want to work with it. So you need to sort of go with the tools that the platform is providing you. And you become really lazy. I mean, you don't care anymore how you want to, optimize your varnish or, do this or that, because, most of it is just pre-configured and will work for 80% of the cases. And that's, that's significant, right? Because it means that for 80% of the cases, you don't have to worry about all of it anymore. For the other 20%, you go in, you buy your hosting somewhere and you install everything from scratch, fine. But for 80%, that's done. So, cloud-driven development sort of puts the fun back into Drupal development and deployment. And here is sort of the model I wanna talk a little bit about, how we work internally in the company or with other people. And basically you have this, you have your 3 environments on the top. You have your development, your test, and your live environment. And then you have your local environment, your sandbox. For your team, this is how your team will look at it. You have everyone has his own sandbox, his local sandbox, and you sort of push stuff up to the dev instance. I mean, and you can pull, you can push, but you can of course also work together. You don't really have to go to the dev instance. You can work with another Git repository to sort of push things from one developer to another. I mean, there is really no limit. I mean, Git is distributed, right? We don't have to use it in one direction only. With the client only sees 2 environments. He sees the test environment, where he can revise or she can revise new features, test out new stuff, this kind of thing. And then there is a live environment where the client will often work on content, add a new article, do this kind of things. The kind of things that you can't really share cleanly between the different environments. And then for everyone else, that's just live. I mean, nothing special. And that's sort of the flow, how things move back and forth in a cloud-driven development model. So this icon, that means the files. This, the code. This is code. So from your local environment, you sort of push up code to the dev environment. That's your master branch of your Git repository. And then you kind of, you push code from left to right. That's how it works. And then you have the sort of the dirty things of Drupal, the database and the files. You take them back from right to left. You don't go the opposite way. I mean, of course, initially there are going to be a bit of left and right and left. But in generally, code, files, and database only move from right to left, or from top to bottom. You might want to take out the latest database of your live environment to do some testing and fix a bug, push the code back up, and go from dev to live. And what are the ingredients for this cloud-driven development? Well, first of all, there is Drupal, obviously. But Drupal by itself wouldn't fit very well in cloud-driven development because, you don't want to be pushing everything everywhere, right? I mean, you just want to be cleanly pushing code to live environment. You never want to, push database to the live environment because that would clash horribly. So the concept of exportables is very important, that you can actually export your configuration to code or to files and push that up. And that relates very well to the previous session we had on patterns. I mean, configuration management is a very big topic, and I think it's the biggest topic we are facing in Drupal. If you can solve this for Drupal 8, I mean, the future will look much better than it looks now. So exportables is a fundamental part of having a good development flow. Then, of course, there is Git, your VCS of choice. Everyone uses it now, so it's easy. And then there is Drush, because without Drush, anyone doesn't know Drush here in the room? Okay, great. So, no need to explain that. I mean, Drush is magic. I mean, without Drush, Drupal wouldn't have risen maybe so fast, or wouldn't have professionalized itself so much. Now I'm going to show some of these concepts using Pantheon. I'm not going to do a live demo because that would just not work. And I'm going to use Pantheon simply because it has a free developer subscription. I mean, it's the easiest one to get started. I think Acquia is announced one a couple of months ago, and will come soon as well with a free developer subscription. So once that's there, you can start to play with all these different tools for free. You don't have to pay for them. So how does it start? A typical flow. You create your site, you name it, you give it a URL. That's DrupalCamp Spain. That's the URL you got. And then it starts, spinning up your new site. doesn't actually install anything. It just sets up the, the repositories, your account, all these kind of things. And then you can start, you can do two things. You can create a new site, or you can import an existing site. For this purpose, we're going to be installing a vanilla Drupal 7. And why is that? Because, why is that? Because we will need, we don't want anything, we don't want any distribution to sort of clutter our plain Drupal 7, because afterwards we want to build stuff on top of that, and I'll show you in a bit. So once you do that, you select the Drupal 7, your site is getting installed. Well, your site itself is not getting installed, your code is getting prepared. So that's the difference. You don't actually have instantiated a database yet. You just create a code repository, put all the Drupal 7 files in there, and that's it. And the next step you want to do is you want to take that stuff local. So you want to clone the URL, the Git URL that Pantheon gave you, and create a local instance. And then, we never start from a plain Drupal 7, and few people probably do these days. You always start from a sort of pre-configured installation profile / makefile. So we sort of maintain our own distribution in-house, which contains a bunch of modules we always want to use, like views or everything really. There's I think we have maybe 80 modules we always sort of install. Well, we always include in the project. We don't always install them. But also sandboxes. You might always want to use a certain sandbox that isn't really release ready, or you developed it yourself or whatever, but you always want to start a new site with that. You include it in your distro. It has some features, that's sort of the configuration you want to build on top of the modules. And it has some smart settings pre-configured. I mean, stupid stuff, such as, you create me automatically an admin user account that can do this, and that. And we have this block always there. Something that you always do. You do it once and then you never worry about it again. And that sort of goes into this structure, which is a makefile that takes care of downloading all the modules, and then the profile, which actually does the job on the database. And then, we're going to start making our sites locally in the repository we just checked out. So we Drush make. We say no core, because we don't actually want to build a core again, because that's what Pantheon did for us already. And we built this. This will, you can't really see it very well, but this would just give you a log of all the modules. It downloaded all the patches it has applied. All your starting distribution is now set up. And then you want to push that back up. You want to push this to the dev site. So you add everything to Git, you commit it, and you push it. And you can start. So you can start installing your site. And only now are we entering the creation of the database tables and all this sort of stuff. So this is on the dev side, dev.blah blah blah. And we check our custom installation profile, because that's all the stuff we want to use, right? And the site is done, and that's it. You can start. So to understand a little bit what the dashboard will give you, and that's fairly similar, Pantheon to Acquia. Basically, you have the three environments: development, testing, and live. And for example, we just pushed everything to development, so that's where all the stuff is there. Our site is installed, but we want to now do the same in the testing environment. So we're gonna go here, and you will see this option that you can sync the database and pull the code. Now, syncing the database means probably, remember, database moves from right to left, so this probably means that the syncing will happen from live, but there's nothing there yet. So we're just gonna pull the code in here. And this will pull the code in here, and then you can copy the database from dev to test. And you have a complete instance ready on tests that you can show to your clients. and he can start working on that. He can start entering content, and you don't worry about it because you have your dev environment and you have your local environment. So a typical development flow works by you start pulling the database from some of the dev, test, or live environments. You want to do this only once or twice, or not every time you start developing, because then you can't configure your own local sandbox as you want it. So then you download some awesome module, and then you wanna configure some things. You wanna configure a view, this kind of stuff, a content type, and you export that. You export that using features, patterns. I mean, whatever, doesn't matter. And finally, you also need to enable that module in your site feature. And that's very important because you now enabled it in your local sandbox, but how would dev or test or live know that you actually enabled that? So you want to do that. You don't want to do that again, right? You don't want to click around, enable this stuff, and configure all the modules again. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the update hooks of Drupal to provide all this magic for you. So in a site feature, that's just a general feature that takes care of sort of the lifespan of your project, of your site, you're going to write PHP code. You're going to write PHP code that says enable that module. And that's it. You push it up. So, but before you can, well, you push it up. That's the last step here. So you git commit and you git push. But then you're missing one step. I mean, you can either now go online to the dev database and run updates.php yourself and, do the whole click again. Or you can just do it with Drush. But for this, you need Drush aliases. And a Drush alias is simply, sort of, is an address for your dev site. At Pantheon DC Spain.dev, that's the dev site. You replace it with test, you have the test site. You replace it with live, you have the live site. And now you can just run Drush across different environments. I mean, that's something that Drush has since a while, but not too many people actually are using that. You could even do, comments on environments on both the dev and the test together if you want to update them at the same time. Or, you can do a lot of different further optimizations with that. So how does the deployment on dev goes? We have configured our module, we have added it, we have pushed it up. Now, what's missing? So we push it up. First thing we got to do is we're going to update the database. So we're going to run drush update db on our dev instance. This will take care of checking that all the modules are updated. And it will see that our site feature is not, because we still have to enable that module. So that's what it will take care of now. It will enable the awesome module. If you work with features, you might, revert all your features. So they take the settings from code and not from the database. And that at the end, you often do a cache clear all because features is not so brilliant, so it will often screw up. So a cache clear all sort of, makes it a little bit better. Not always. So actually this comment, this one, you can write it in one comment, which is checkout or something. One comment that just check out my code on the dev site, and it will take care of all of that. And that's, deploying on test. I tried to explain this before, but here you see it actually. I didn't do anything. I just now went to the Pantheon site, and I will see my last commit coming in. Built a site from MZ. And now I can, check that code out in the test environment. And what happens in the back, it now creates a git tag. So it creates a new tag for that specific deployment. So you can always, know at that specific time we deployed this specific code. But, you still have to go online, you still have to go to the Pantheon, Acquia, whatever website. So can't we do this faster? Can't we just deploy from the command line? I mean, can't we say deploy now everything to test and you take care of it? And yes, you can. For Pantheon, there is Pandarus. It's a sandbox project, still on D.O. It will probably be promoted one of the next days. I've been in contact with the maintainer, and we're trying to promote this to a full project, so actually you can use it and download it with Drush as a normal module. And it's really for command line freaks. You can automate a lot of the stuff you would be doing on the interface of the hosting of the platform using command line. You can deploy via command line, or you can sync your database and files from different environments also via command line. This is an example. You want to deploy, you just do drush pan deploy test. It will create a new Git tag and push that stuff up on your test environment. Then, of course, you need to run your update.db, your feature revert all, your cache clear. But that's one command, so you can actually make, again, one command of the deploy on test that takes care of all of that. And another very, very useful thing is that you're working on your local site, and the client comes in and says, we have this and that problem on the live site. So I want to obviously have his live database. I want to have his live files to quickly check the stuff, so I don't have to go in on the live site. So you're going to be, syncing all the files from the live environment or the dev environment to your local environment. That's the local environment. And you want to sync your database from live or from dev to your local. So that's all you need. 2 commands, again, can be written in one. So that's sort of how we work with cloud services. And the pre-launch dev cycle looks like this. You have your local box, your dev and your test. Client works on tests. You push stuff back and forth between dev and local. And once a week, or whenever you deploy to the client, you push it over to test. And he will see your new revisions. He won't see like your atomic work every single day. No, he will only see it when you think he should see it, and not before. And if he has a problem, or she, you can just take the database down and work on your local instance. And when you go live, what we do, but you can change it, of course, we take the test database to the live database and the files, and that's it. We never will go the other way around. Now live is live, and content has to be done there, and all the stuff that can't be exported has to be done in live or repeated in live. And everyone is happy. And what else can you do with cloud? You can search like a pro, you can use Apache Solr. It's a matter of clicking around, really. I mean, it's a matter of configuring a couple of modules, and you have Apache Solr for you. No extra effort. You can cache, you can use Varnish, or when you use Nginx, you have already the reverse proxy for anonymous. There is Redis for authenticated users. So you have a key value store, that you can make your queries not rerun every time, and make things go faster, also for authenticated. And you can scale. If your site hits a lot of traffic, which obviously, or most often it won't do from the first day, but it might do after a couple of months, then you can scale it up. You don't have to worry that, how do we have to rebuild this whole thing? And you can do very, very cool stuff, such as site profiling. I mean, this is a tool called New Relic. It gives you a very in-depth view of performance of your site. You can check which modules go slow, which queries go slow. And it's really helpful for you to understand what's going wrong in your site. And you just have it enabled there as well. And there's some more stuff. Some of the platforms provide Drupal core updates. So you don't have to worry about that anymore either. You can do on-server development, so you can do a hotfix on the server. And that's sort of things to look out for, like what cloud development could benefit from. That is definitely the configuration management initiative. Will make it much easier to share stuff. More command line magic. eventually, everything should be managed with the command line, because then only then you can automate. Automation. And I sincerely believe it can be the future for hosting your Drupal sites. And thanks.